What is up, y'all? It has been a minute since I have talked anything herbalism, really, and I thought today that we would change that. So today I thought I'd share ways that I have personally integrated herbs and herbalism into my life outside of just making teas and taking tinctures, and I thought I'd share that with you just because I feel like for this past year I have really been struggling with the concept of calling myself an herbalist just because I haven't been on my herb A game. I haven't been studying like I used to, and I kind of felt a little bit like an imposter in that world. And for a while I really connected this identity of an herbalist to how often I used herbs, how frequently I used them, and it just felt like it needed to be something that was in my everyday routine in order for me to feel like I was someone who could say I was an herbalist. But over the past couple months I feel like I have been able to shift my perspective on that a little more and give myself a little more grace. I think it does a really big disservice to all of the studying and the information that I still hold within me about herbs and herbalism to act like I am still not an herbalist just because it's not something that I actively can put all of my attention towards, because that's really what it came down to. I just haven't had time to really dive deeper into that practice. And so for me, that stagnation felt like I was losing the right to that title and the right to consider myself a reliable source in that world. It sounds really weird to say out loud and to kind of like voice that feeling, but it is how I felt, so I just wanted to share that for transparency's sake. So I guess this would also be a good time to introduce myself. Hi, hello, my name is Sydney Rain, and on this channel we just be living life, you know? Overall, I'm generally like a wellness girly, but I am a very loose and fluid wellness girly. You know, we talk a lot of things about emotional growth, holistic wellness, herbalism, lock care. I do these things called Earthy Girl vlogs, which are just kind of like my way to incorporate nature and environmental issues and awareness into this channel as well, just because that is also an interest and passion of mine. Because of that, I feel like this channel can at times come off as a mixed bag, but I feel like there are really unifying themes that still exist here. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, I encourage you to stick around. And just for a little background about me, I have been studying herbalism seriously since 2021. I think it was definitely an interest before that, but I feel like 2021 is when it really started to pick up for me and become a true passion and something that I even wanted to go into business for, because I used to own an online apothecary where I essentially carried a curated selection of herbs mainly to do with womb health, stress, depression, anti-anxiety, and I guess like mood boosting benefits. I did not have that shop for very long just because at the time it was not a very manageable thing. I just was not in the right headspace or life space to really support myself in the ways that I needed to make it not only a successful business but also to be able to really support myself on that venture. So since then I have largely taken a backseat on talking about herbalism and herbalism altogether. I was just a little burnt out, I think, as well. Diving deeper into that practice, I have been able to rekindle that relationship with herbalism. Even though it wasn't something that was as prevalent as it used to be in my life, I definitely found moments this past year where I would pick up my herbalism books and I would read something, or people would send me something or talk about something, and it would just always remind me how passionate I was about this topic. And so over the past couple months, I have started to feel a lot more comfortable talking about herbalism and really bringing that back into this channel, but also my other platforms, just because that is like the true origin of these platforms. I started off as a holistic wellness content creator, and specifically I would share information about herbalism. And since that point, this journey has had a lot of tricks and turns and false starts and abrupt stops and full sends. So I'm just grateful that I'm back in a space where I can talk about this again and feel excited to share this information with you, and I thought this would be the perfect video to do that with. So one thing that I just want to say right off the bat after saying all of that is you do not need to be someone that drinks tea every day and is constantly learning something new about herbs and herbalism to consider yourself an herbalist. And I'm sure that may seem obvious for most, but I think it's important to remember that herbalism and holistic wellness is often a journey of healing. And since incorporating herbalism into my life and holistic wellness as a general lifestyle and practice, I have learned a lot about myself. Herbalism and herbs continue to be not only a tool, but a lesson for me to grow and to constantly face myself. And so I think part of this journey for me has also been understanding that just because I fall off something doesn't mean that I have completely lost my way in this journey. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I do not mean to project anything onto y'all. That was not my intention, but regardless, I thought it was something worth noting and mentioning before we get into this. And it's actually kind of funny that I say all of this because as I begin talking about all the ways you can integrate herbalism into your life, you will probably see that I actively contradict myself when I talk about how herbalism hasn't really been a part of my life for the past year, because in so many ways herbalism has continued to shape who I am, and I have found so many ways to integrate that knowledge into my lifestyle. It's kind of insane for me to act like herbalism isn't a part of my life, because it very much is. I think it was just, I had to shift my perspective of what it meant to be an herbalist and what it meant to be someone who continues to exist within this lifestyle even if it doesn't look like drinking teas every day. Oh my god, I feel like this is getting confusing, so I'm just going to get into all of the talking points that I have because I have talking points. Okay, so the biggest way that I have integrated herbs into my life is through something that I discovered has an official name, and that is bioregional herbalism, also known as eco-herbalism. This is actually something that I have talked about in past videos. I think I spoke about it in my Radical Earth Girl and Herbalist video that I made a few months ago, because I spoke a lot about learning native plants and learning your native history for the land that you are currently existing on. At the time, I did not know that there was a specific term for that, and I really don't think it's due to a lack of research, because I do a lot of research before talking to y'all. I think it just kind of speaks to how hard sometimes it is to connect these worlds because language is such a barrier. What am I trying to say? I think it's just interesting sometimes how words find you and bring so much validity into the thoughts and feelings and emotions that you may have before you even know that there is a word to describe them. And so I think it was not even like 3 weeks ago that I came across another creator's page and they were talking about how they practice bioregional herbalism, and I was like, oh my god, like that is literally what I was talking about. Like that is kind of what I do. And so in essence, bioregional herbalism is essentially taking into consideration your local community and your local native plant species, non-native plant species, and herbalism from a perspective of what is accessible to you and your area versus what I believe is a lot more common, which is just learning about herbs online in this platform or reading about them and then sourcing those herbs from wherever they come from, which I think is obviously still a very valuable practice because not everything is going to grow in your immediate environment, or maybe not at all. I do think there is so much value in learning about what is in your local and immediate community and learning that history and really learning how to support yourself in your herbalist journey with that information, that knowledge, and those accessible plants and herbs. And learning that term, I realized that this is something that I have been doing for the past year, and even though I haven't foraged anything, I have still grown to be quite knowledgeable on the plants that exist in my community and my environment, both native and non-native, and through that, I found that a lot of the information that I previously knew about herbalism overlapped quite beautifully with what was currently at my disposal here in Washington. And it's actually been very cool and interesting. And I feel like that is also what has helped me really keep this passion for herbalism alive in spite of not really actively practicing anything. I am someone that loves to go on nature walks, and I have a couple different apps that I could share with y'all in a future video on how I identify plants and ways that it makes it really easy for me to obtain and maintain this knowledge. Off the top of my head, as far as both native and non-native plant species in Washington that are also medicinal, I know there is an abundance of stinging nettle. We also have, well, I haven't personally seen it here, but I do know that there is milk thistle. I've seen so many other thistles. I would not be surprised if it is somewhere. But it is a noxious weed because it is not safe for cattle and it wrecks the ecosystem. So I know it's somewhere, but I think it's a good thing that I haven't found it. There's also a lot of red clover, dandelion. I did not really get into fungi at all this past year, but I have seen a lot of people talk about finding lion's mane out here as well. So yeah, that's just off the top of my head, and these are all medicinal plants that I have experience with, and some of those herbs are herbs that I actively have on my herb shelf. So it's really cool to not only understand these herbs in practice, but to also see them and experience them in their natural environment. I can't say that for all of the herbs, but specifically here, stinging nettle is a native herb and it is very abundant in Washington. I'm actually really excited because I do plan to forage it this year, and I have some really cool recipes and things that I want to do with y'all about that. So please stay tuned for that, and don't forget to subscribe. But yeah, it's just been really cool actually to draw connections between what I've read on paper and what I have spoken about on here to my actual real life environment, and being able to understand that not only is this something that I could technically source from wherever ethically, but it is an active resource for me here. So I truly think this is something that anyone that is interested in herbalism should look into. And even if you're not, I think it's just interesting to be able to go into nature and identify what you are in the presence of. I just think it makes the experience more interactive, more fulfilling, and it's fun. And with that too, I really feel like those types of practices is what makes herbalism go from just this what an herb can do for me perspective to a very holistic lifestyle perspective, which in all honesty I think is where for the most part herbalism should exist, since it does sit within holistic wellness. So I also just think it's also a great way to give back to this practice. I will die on my environmental justice hill. Like, if we want to see change, we need empathy and we need love, and it's a lot easier to develop those things if you feel like you have a connection to the world around you outside of just what we need to survive. And I really don't think it's asking a lot to do the research and to really find out where you live and learn about the evolution of the spaces that you occupy. I really don't think that is asking a lot. And as someone who cares deeply not only about the environment, but also the continuation and the traditions that exist within herbalism and herbal knowledge, like, this is a really essential part of being an herbalist and being able to carry on this legacy that had to be brought to us by someone else. You know, most of us would not know this information without someone coming before us, sharing it with us, or putting the time and the energy in to share it through books, through letters, through media like this. So I think not only is this a great way to integrate herbs into your life, but I think it is just a responsibility that if you are someone who considers themselves an herbalist, this is something that we need to acknowledge and to take upon ourselves to do, and to really integrate into our routines and our lifestyle choices. Sometimes it is so difficult for me to get my thoughts out, and it seems like this is going to be one of those videos, so please bear with me. Let's move on to some other ways that you can integrate herbalism into your life that probably might seem a little more fun. One of the ways that I have integrated herbalism a lot into my lifestyle this year is through hair care. And so I think a really fun way to integrate herbalism into your life is through crafting and DIY projects. For me, I personally love DIY hair care. So I have made oils, I have made shampoos, conditioners, rinses, sprays, you name it. Hair care has just been a really fun way for me to incorporate and integrate herbs into my life, especially because shortly after starting this herbalist journey, I also started my lock journey. So those are two journeys that have kind of been intertwined since the beginning, and I have just had a lot of fun learning about my hair, learning what herbs help my hair, and really putting those two practices together. And within that too, I feel like practicing herbalism has also just made me a lot more conscious about the things that I put in and on my body. So even if I am not the one making these skincare and body care products, I always now try to find products that have a healthy list of herbs in them. And that's also kind of fun because I get to look at this ingredients list and read off these herbs. And it's almost like a test to me, you know, if I read that this skin balm has rose hips in it, I'm like, okay, rose hips, like what is that good for? Like why would they put rose hips in this? You know, like, so I feel like there's always little ways too to just kind of like test yourself, test your knowledge, and keep yourself up to date if it does become more of a lifestyle practice, because I have been able to continue to refresh and to grow a deeper understanding on the use of certain herbs because I am actively making sure that they continue to be in my life. For me, one of the most consistent ways for doing that is to incorporate it into routines that I otherwise can't live without, and that is a hair care routine, a skincare routine, and a body care routine. Most of the products I buy for my skincare and body care are bought at this really bougie health food store called PCC. Shout out to anyone in Washington if you know what that is. But as bougie and pretentious as that atmosphere might feel at times, I am not gonna lie, their health and body care section it's amazing, and their products are really clean and they're really good quality. So that's always a great way to integrate herbs into your life. Another great way to integrate herbs into your everyday life is through cooking. There is an abundance of culinary herbs, and I actually have a book. Let me go get the book. This is a book I've had for a long while now. It's called The New American Herbal, and one thing that's really cool about this book is a lot of the herbs that are listed are culinary herbs and things you can grow in a garden. And I currently don't have an herb garden. It just doesn't make sense inside my apartment because of my cats, and I don't really have an outside space, so I have not been able to venture into the world of growing herbs. But books like these are great because one, it is thick, it's huge. There are a lot of herbs in here, and I think something that I really like about this book compared to my other books about herbalism is it's a little less like medicine centered, if that makes sense. You know, like this book doesn't really break down the herbs and all their medical uses, but it does give other aspects and benefits that these herbs provide, especially when it comes to cooking and in a culinary setting. And I just think that's great because the world of herbalism is so vast and expansive, and there's so many different ways that you can use herbs and ways that you can integrate them into your life. And so this book for me really helped me take it out of this so strictly like medicinal healing perspective and put it more in like a, okay, like yes, like I can make recipes with these herbs. Like I can enjoy the herbs simply because they taste good, simply because they provide this aromatic experience, you know? And it also reminds me that herbalism does not have to be so serious all the time. Like it does not always have to be so serious. Like it could be fun. It can be as simple as, oh, I just saw this new herb at the grocery store. I've never cooked with it before. Looks pretty, looks cool, like aesthetically it's appealing, like I wonder if I can make a dish with that. I think it does not have to go any further than that some days, and so having this book has really helped me kind of like break down the urgency of needing my herbs to do something for me and to have this really healing relationship. I have not looked in this book in a long time, I'm not even gonna lie, but now that it's in my hand, I'm probably gonna read it after I finish this video. I'm trying to think of other ways that I integrate herbalism into my life. Oh, I think another really consistent pattern and way that I have integrated herbalism and herbs into my life is with my menstrual cycle, because that is something that is pretty set in my life for right now. I would say, and honestly, I would say in general, a lot of my lifestyle and the things that I do is already very much centered around my menstrual cycle, so integrating herbs into that is really not that difficult. Now, generally this does really just look like teas and tinctures and supplements. Very much your standard, very mainstream way to integrate herbs into your life. For me, I wanted to mention it just because it's a great way for me to keep a consistent practice. I would love to share my holistic and partially like sustainable period routine with y'all, so let me know if that's something you're interested in. I have put a lot of time and dedication into this process. I almost like live for my menstrual cycle. Like, I love her, and I have put a lot of energy and care and time into making this very natural cycle in my life feel meaningful and intentional and loved, and in turn, I have brought a lot of self-love back to myself. And so let me know if that's something you're interested in. Herbs have been very foundational in that practice, and it is something that always allows me to not only get into that mindset that I'm about to start this new cycle and shed old skin and be reborn, I don't know, however you want to explain it. That has been a great way for me to integrate herbs into my life and to really embrace the practice of herbalism and medicinal healing and plant medicine, and it has done wonders for me. So yeah. All this to say, when herbalism becomes something that is more like a system and a lifestyle to exist in rather than one specific practice, it becomes infinitely easier to integrate herbs into your life. It doesn't always have to look like taking teas and finding ways to heal yourself, because I don't think that every given moment of our time should be dedicated to healing in the first place. I think there's a lot of play that goes into this practice of herbalism, and there's a lot of ways to have fun with it that aren't as serious and still could be beneficial to you. And I think there's also ways that we can integrate herbalism into our life that is revolutionary and radical and can result in real life change in the world around us. And so for me, integrating herbalism and herbs into your life really just comes down to how you can couple that power and that energy with other things that are going on in your life and things that you care about and are passionate about, and finding ways to create a lifestyle where it is almost second nature to incorporate these herbs and to integrate this practice into your life. Cooking, hair care, skincare, and body care. I see these routines as learning opportunities, and so finding ways to continue to challenge myself and to keep herbalism fun and interesting is always a plus for me. And I think that just really did come with time, and not only having a passion for herbalism, because that passion is what made me care, but just I feel like over time just being like, oh, okay, like I know what this herb is, I understand these ingredients. There's a lot of intention that goes into self-care for me, and so for that reason I feel like herbalism has been such a great tool for that, and it is now something that I can see reflected in the products that I buy and the places that I shop and the things that I use. Thank you so much for watching. That is all that I have today. I really feel like I rushed through this, and I would love to break it down more. I didn't really want to share that much too, because I have other videos that I want to make, and I feel like it would kind of defeat the purpose if I talk about everything right now and then in the future make another video talking about it. I guess I could do both, but that is not how my brain works. So I have some really exciting recipes that I want to share with y'all. I already know I want to make a full video dedicated to how I integrate herbs into my cooking, just because I do it on really small, simple levels, all the way to trying out new recipes and substituting certain things with herbs and plants, and that's all really fun to me. It's really fun to create in that way, so I'm excited to share that with y'all. I also know that I want to start doing plant walks as well. All of this is so weather dependent though, and it is just not the season to do herb walks. All of these ideas are very much like spring 2025 ideas, which is a little frustrating, but it just gives me more time to talk about other things and to share other passions. So yeah, stay tuned for that. As always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy healing, y'all. All right, talk to you soon. Bye.